Hello and welcome back to Cybos TV. I'm Daisy McAndrew, delighted to be broadcasting for you from the Boston Convention Centre and Cybos 2014. Thrilled to have been joined on the sofa here by Professor Ron Bernsen from Tilburg University. Now, of course, your day job, Professor, is actually head of the Oversight Department at the Central Bank, but that's not why you're here to talk to me this morning. You're here to tell us all about Scrooge DigiDuck's warehouse. Now, I know your background, you're an expert in payment systems and securities, but what on earth is Scrooge DigiDuck's warehouse?
That's a good question. We had to invent a way of getting the broader people to know what we are talking about. This is infrastructure, and everybody knows about infrastructure. That is, most of it happens behind the scenes. It's the same with plumbing, it's the same with water, and also with payments. So I had to have a device in order to make sure that I can learn students, but also people outside the central banks, outside the banking sector, what this infrastructure on payments and securities is all about.
And how do the students respond?
They like it very much. Of course, I start by introducing first Scrooge McDuck, the wealthy duck from Duckburg, who swims in money. Everybody knows that picture. It has been translated in all types of languages. And so it's very easy when you say, but you didn't know about his digital brother, which is Scrooge DigiDuck. And he is also running a money bin, a big warehouse with money in it, but most types of money which is different from coins and banknotes.
Well, I suppose that's the crucial point, isn't it, to explain to students that money comes in many different forms.
Exactly. It's not also about money, it's also about financial assets. It's also about how can we transport these value chains throughout our economy. So it's about paying, it's about trading, clearing, settlement. And the idea is that we have to have all these type of concepts into one compact warehouse. So I had this inaugural lecture when I became professor in 2011. And 1 month before I said I have to know a certain metaphor in order to bring this over. And the other idea was to kind of an invisible hand of Adam Smith. It was another idea, but in the end I stuck with this warehouse, and it serves me fine. I've used it now for 3 years in Bachelor Economics at Tilburg University, and the students seem to respond very good to it.
I'm guessing, though, that the shape of the warehouse, the order of the warehouse must change as the world changes.
Oh yes, absolutely. Of course, there are some defining characteristics which should remain the same, because the warehouse should have some certain components that stays the same. But every year I'm adding new components to it. Other components who die out, I take out. Check clearing, for instance, it's no longer in the Netherlands. In the early version of the warehouse, check clearing was in, and that's now going out. We had our domestic payment scheme that has also been taken out. And of course, SEPA, which is very big in Europe, has now been added to the warehouse. So I keep track of all these changes in the infrastructure.
And you're almost doing this in your spare time. I explained at the beginning that you have a very important day job, as it were, at the central bank. So this really is a labour of love, I'm guessing.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it's a kind of hobby to have to think about these type of things. And I have an economics background and also an artificial intelligence background, an IT background. And those two disciplines merge very well for studying this type of thing.
So you've explained to me how the warehouse has already changed. What about looking forward?
Well, very important new warehouse is, of course, virtual currencies. On Bitcoin, for instance, that's a completely new warehouse, which I have designed this year. And I'm also going to talk about this in this afternoon at Tilburg, at Cybos University, to explain how you can view the Bitcoin phenomenon using my warehouse metaphor. So then you have these traditional currencies, central bank-backed currencies, and you have the new virtual currency, and you can see what are the differences between those two.
Yes, because I know that we'll be talking about virtual currencies and all sorts of different currencies a lot over the next week, but of course that's going to put huge pressures on your warehouse.
Yes, it is. So I have this as a kind of construction site. It's work in progress. It's all experimental. The whole software is still experimental. But that means that also the warehouse itself is experimental, and I keep changing it probably for the next few years quite fundamentally.
Can you envisage a time when the warehouse is obsolete, or will it just keep changing and evolving?
I've thought about this. When you are really extrapolating all kinds of trends further into the future, let's say 50 or 100 years from now, I thought, well, what could then be the kind of ultimate warehouse? Where could it all end? And I use this type of warehouse as a kind of analytical tool. In the ultimate warehouse, all payments are instantaneous, worldwide, 24/7. You don't need central counterparty clearing anymore. All transactions will be done within 2 milliseconds. That means that also that you can get a bank into bankruptcy in 2 milliseconds. So it's not that a warehouse that I use as an ultimate warehouse is per se good and to strive at. It might be a horrible warehouse, and it might have too much risks.
I was going to say, I'm not sure that what you're saying is going to be terribly reassuring to a
No,
lot
exactly.
of people, striking fear into the heart of our audience.
Exactly. So this is where I'm just extrapolating trends to the ultimate extreme.
Yeah.
And then you can see, okay, if you don't like the outcome, well, better perhaps that we do something about this in order to make sure that we have a proper warehouse.
Talk me through some of the other sort of worst case scenarios. I'm assuming you can use the warehouse, as you said, as a place to carry out these horror stories and work out where the risks of the future might come from.
Every currency has its own warehouse. So worldwide we have as many currencies as we have warehouses. So then you can very clearly see that all those links between the warehouses, for instance, what the CLS system does by connecting all these warehouses. If that breaks down, you basically end up with the warehouses which are apart from each other. So that means that there are not many links again, and that is very important, because if those links disappear, you don't have a good global system to work at. So that is one of the risks. The other one is obviously on cybersecurity. If the software in the warehouse is too uniform, if most of the warehouse is running on the same platforms, is using the same type of software, and you have a problem in that software, you might have a big problem across the whole warehouse.
So that's sort of almost putting your duck eggs all in one basket.
Exactly. That's a good one.
So what are presumably, so the warehouse can be used to find and explore those potential problems and those scenarios, and then I'm assuming it can also be used to find the solutions.
At least it can point out which are the questions. Whether they have also the solution, I think then we need much more research to do that. But the warehouse is a good way to think about this in a structured way. So I don't use it as much as a research tool. It's more for educational purposes.
Yeah. And I know that you use it obviously in the University of Tilburg, and you've said that you're using it here with Sibos. Do you find that, or Sibos University, do you find that it would also have a use with not just university students and youngsters, but actually everybody within this industry as a different way of looking at the problems?
I think so, because what the warehouse does is it puts a structure on all the different concepts that we see here around this exhibition. All the market infrastructures have a place, all the payments products, all the exchanges, but also all the banks and all the transaction services that they employ are in the warehouse. So it is a kind of way of systematically thinking where every bit should go.
And Professor, I'm fascinated to know, because obviously you spend the bulk of your time at the ECB doing, as we've described it, your day job, and then you spend a proportion of 20% or so with the students. Do you find that the grey beards, if you like, and the students look at the same problem in very different ways? Do you find that you learn different things from your different colleagues on different days?
I do. It's very interesting to see how the interaction between theory and practice is coming about. Students ask all kinds of questions that you would never think of when you are working at a central bank. The other day a student asked for me, why isn't the central bank using Bitcoin to do their RTGS system? That is a question that we would never dream up within the central bank. And then at first you think it's ridiculous, but when you start digging it further, then you say, okay, if this general ledger technique of Bitcoin is really sound and safe, why not in the very far future? We could have a...
I know Bitcoin is something we'll be talking in much more detail later on Sibos TV, but what's your prediction on Bitcoin?
It will be the first of many variants. You see already now lots of different sorts blossoming across the internet. If this technique, because the underlying technique is more important than to have this Bitcoin, which is kind of a coincidence, it's the first one, but it's not necessarily the last one. These type of virtual currencies, for me, the main question is, are people willing to use that as a store of value? Are you really prepared to put your life savings all into Bitcoin or not? And if you say, okay, I'd rather have all my life savings in a euro or in a dollar deposit, which is for me more safe, then I don't think Bitcoin will last for long.
But I think probably you're absolutely right. You'll see a different reaction to virtual currencies from one generation than you would to another. Exactly.
But also, there's no deposit guarantee. If you lose your keys to the software, your Bitcoins are lost. All these type of things. If you have a complaint, you cannot complain to anybody. All these type of things. Yeah, exactly. So that is something what still needs to be fleshed out.
Okay, well, lovely. We've opened a whole nother can of worms there, but as I said, we will be covering those virtual currencies in much more detail on Sibos TV. But for now, Professor Bernsen, thank you so much for talking us through Scrooge's DigiDuck warehouse. I've certainly learned a lot, as I'm sure that your students have as well, and continue to educate you on it as well, as we were saying, that two-way process. Great stuff. Join us here on Sibos TV later on today. We're going to be delving deep into the world of big data, but for now, that's all.